everyone, welcome to our channel Knowledge of Friends. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for the latest update. आज हम प्रिंसिपल ऑफ प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेजेस की क्लास कर रहे हैं, जो कि ऑलरेडी आपका क्लास सेकेंड है. ऑलरेडी हम फर्स्ट क्लासेस कर चुके हैं, जिसमें हमने यूनिट 1 स्टार्ट कर दिया था, जो कि लास्ट क्लास हमने कल किया है. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, इट्स अ ह्यूज रिक्वेस्ट फ्रॉम माई साइड टू ऑल द व्यूअर्स. Please go through with the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. In the terms of principle of programming languages, which is your class second, we have to start with a unit 1, that is your introduction. इससे पहले हमने बहुत सारी चीज़ें कंप्लीट कर ली हैं. लास्ट जो हमने किया था वो लैंग्वेज ट्रांसलेटर पे किया था, जिसके हमने असेंबलर्स, लोडर एंड प्री प्रोसेसर, माइक्रो प्रोसेसर हमने लास्ट डिस्कस किया था टॉपिक. And it's a huge request from my side to all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. Let's go ahead with the another one in this unit, that is your introduction to principle of programming languages. So today we'll start discussing about software simulation. In software simulation, they can ask you write the short note on software simulation, which has been asked 3 times in your examination paper of your 5 marks. And the other thing that they can ask you write a short note on a software interpretation as well. So you have to know what they had asked you, and according to that you have to answer it. So let's go ahead with the software simulation and software interpretation. In that, rather than translating the high-level language program into an equivalent machine language program, we might instead simulate and through the programs that running on another host computer, a computer whose machine languages is high-level language, and to do this, we construct a set of programs in the machine language of the host computer that represent the algorithm and the data structures necessary for the execution of program in the high-level language. In the other world, we construct with software running on the host computer and the high-level language, the computer that we might otherwise have constructed in hardware. This is termed as software simulations or software interpretations of the high-level language and computer on the host computer. The simulated computer accepts as input data a program in the high-level language. The main simulators program perform an interpretations algorithm similar to that, the coding and executing each statement of the input in the appropriate sequence and producing that specified output from the program. Wherein this, that is the term as software simulations or the software interpretations of the high-level language computer and a host computer, where the stimulated, if I'm talking about the stimulated computer, accepts as input data a program in the high-level language. The main simulators program that perform an interpretation algorithm similar to that of decoding and executing each statement of the input perform in the appropriate sequence and producing the specified output from the program as well. In the same case, in such a case, we say that the host computer creates a virtual machine simulating the high-level language, and when the host computer is executing the high-level program, it is not possible to tell whether the program is being executed directly by the hardware or is first converted to the low-level machine language of the hardware computer as well. In the same case, if I'm talking about with the detail it stands for the another question that can arise is that the declarations are usually said to be elaborated instead of executed, and so less the binding and their binding time necessary for a complete elaborations of the declaration. This has been asked for 5 marks. The another is what do you understand by binding and a binding time? What is the difference between binding and a at compile time and binding at execution time. This has also been asked to modify the question, and that has been asked of 5 marks. And differentiate between the compile time binding and a runtime binding, that is also has been asked for 5 marks. And what do you mean binding and binding time? So that these were the possible questions that has been asked of 5 marks individually in a different examination here. So let's go ahead to discuss about binding. In the binding here, that the binding of a program element to a particular characteristics or property, it will simplify the choice of the property from a set of possible properties, and the time during the program formulations or processing when the choice is made is termed the binding time of the property for the element. And there are many different varieties of binding in programming languages, as well as variety of binding times as well. We also include within our concepts of binding and binding time the properties of a program elements that are fixed either by the definitions of the language or its implementation as well. The classes, let's go ahead to discuss about classes of binding time. The classes of binding time here, although there is no simple categorization of the various types of binding, and a few main binding times may be distinguished. The processing of a program, regardless of the language, always involves a translation step followed by execution of the translated program. So the first we have here is the execution time, which is known as runtime. That is execution time, which is known as runtime. In this, that many bindings are performed during the program execution. These includes the binding of variable to their values, as well as in many languages, and the binding of the variable to a particular storage location. Two important subcategorization may be distinguished. The first is your one entry to a subprogram or a block. That is, in most language, binding are restricted to occur only at a time of entry to a subprogram or a block during execution. For example, in C and C++, the binding or a formal to actual parameters and the binding of the formal parameters to particular storage location may occur only on entry to a sub program, and at arbitrary points during execution. That some binding may occur at any point during the execution of a program. The most important examples here in the basics binding of variables to values through the assignments, whereas some languages like Lisp, Smalltalk, and ML permit the binding of the name to storage location as well, and to occur at arbitrary points in the program as well. The second, for the after the execution we have here is your, that is the translation time. Translation time, and which is known as compile time. That is translation time, that the three different classes of translation time binding may be distinguished. The first is binding chosen by the programmer. In writing a program, the programmer concisely that makes many decisions regarding the choice of variable names, types for variables, and program statement structures, and so on, that represent the binding during the translation. The language translator that make use of their binding to determine the final form of the object program as well. The second is your binding chosen by the transistor, where some bindings are chosen by the language translator that without a direct program or specification. For example, the relative location of the data object in the storage allocated for a procedure is generally handled without knowledge or interventions by the programmer as well. And in the same case, the different implementations of a given language may choose to provide these features in a different way as well. The third is your binding chosen by the loaders, that is, the programmer usually consists of several subprograms that must be merged into a single executable program. The translator typically binds variable to address within the storage designated for each subprogram, and however this storage must be allocated actual address within the physical computer that will execute the program, and this occurs during the load time and also called a link time as well. The third we have that is your language implementation time. Language implementation time. In a language implementation time, some aspects of language definition may be at the same for all programs that are run using a particular implementation of language, but they may vary between implementation. For example, often the detail associated with the representations of number and arithmetic operation that are determined by the way that arithmetic is done in the underlying hardware computer, and a program written in the language that uses a feature whose definition has been fixed at implementation time will not necessarily run on another implementation on the same language. Even more troublesome, it may run and give the different results as well. Talking about the fourth one, language definition time. In language definition time, most of the structures of the programming language is fixed at the time the language is defined, in the sense of a specification of the alternative available to a programmer when writing a program. For example, the possible alternative statement forms, data structure types, program structures, and so on are often fixed at a language definition time as well. To illustrate the variety of bindings and binding times, consider the simple assignment statement where x equals to x plus 10. So written in that language, that L, and we might inquire the binding into the binding and binding time of the following elements of this statement, and that is the set of the types for the variable x, where the variable x in the statement usually has a data type associated with it, and such a real integer or a boolean. The set of allowable types of x is often fixed at language definition time. Example, only type a real and integer boolean set and a character might be allowed, and alternatively the language may allow each program to define new types as in C, Java, and Ada, so that the set of the possible types of for x is fixed at translation time as well. Talking about the type of a variable x, that the particular data type that is associated and with a variable x is often fixed at translation time through an explicit declaration in the program, such as float x, which is in the C designation for a real data types. In the other language, such as Smalltalk and Perl, the data type of x may be bound at execution time through the assignment of a value of a particular type of 2x as well. In these language, x may refer to an integer at any one point and a string at a later point in the same program. Set for the possible values of for variable x, that if x has a data type real, then its value at any point during the execution is one of the set of bit sequence representing the real number, where the precise set of the possible values for x is determined by the real number that can be represented and manipulated in a virtual computer defining the language, and which ordinarily is the set of the real number that can be represented conveniently in the underlying hardware computer. Talking about the value of variable x here, that is at any point during a program execution, a particular value is bound to variable x, and this value is to determine at execution time through the assignment of the value to x, and the assignment where x equals to x plus 10 changes the binding of x and replacing its old value by a new one, that is your 10, more than that of the old one as well. In the terms of representation of the constant 10, the integer 10 has both a representation as a constant in the text of the program using the string 10, and the representation at the execution time commonly as a sequence of bits, and the choice of decimal representation in the program that is using the 10 for 10, and that is usually made of the language definition time, where the choice of a particular sequence of bits is to represent the 10 at execution is usually made the language implementation and time as well, where in the same case that is the properties of the of an operator plus, that is the choice of the symbol plus to represent the addition operation is made, and that at a language definition time. So however, it is common to allow the same symbol, that is plus, to be overloaded by representing the real addition, integers addition, and that the complex addition, and so on, depending on the context in the compiled language. It is common to make the determinations of which is represented by plus at a complex time as well. So here that the mechanism that is specifying the binding desired is usually the typing mechanism for the variable, and if x is a type integer, then a plus is in here, that is x plus 10 represents the integer additions, and if x is a type real, then a plus represent the real addition, and so on. Let's go ahead to discuss about write a short note on a syntax of a grammar, or what are the general syntactic criteria of a programming language. Syntax of a grammar. And general criteria of programming language, which has been asked for 5 marks. So in that the syntax is a set of the rules that define the form of languages, that define how sentences may be formed as a sequence of basic constituents that call words, and using these rules we can tell that whether a sentence is legal or not. And the syntax does not tell us anything about the content or meaning of the sentences. The semantic rules tell us that, and an example that as an example, that C keywords such as while, do, if, and else, and that identifiers, number, operators, etc. are the words of language, where the C syntax tell us how to combine such words to construct with the formed statement and programs. Words are not elementary, they are constructed out of the character belonging to an alphabet, and thus the syntax of a language is defined by the two sets of rules, that is lexical rules and syntactic rule as well. The lexical rules specifies the set of the character that constitute the alphabet of the language, and the way that such character that can be combined to form valid words. For example, the Pascal consider the lowercase and the uppercase character to be identical, but C and Ada that consider them to be distinct, and thus according to the lexical rules, memory and a memory refers to the same variable in a Pascal, but it is distinct variable in the C and Ada, where we'll write it down memory in a capital letter, and starting with a capital letter, and the another memory that will write with a small letter starting with a small letter. So they are the different in C, but they are same as in the Pascal as well. So any programming languages specifies a set of rules for the form of valid programs in that language, and the syntactic rules of the language state how to form an expression statement and program that look right, and the semantic rules of the language tell us how to build meaningful expression statement and program. For example, they might tell us that before using the variable that required in if the statement, we must declare the variable. And they also tell us that the declaration of the variable, such a request cause storage to be resolved for the variable, and the characters are the ultimate syntactic building blocks, where every program is formed by placing the character together in some well-defined order. The semantic building block and rules, on the other hand, are more intricate. Indeed, most of the deep differences among the various programming languages stem from their different semantic blocks as well. So let's go ahead to discuss, write a note on semantics of a grammar. Semantic of a grammar. Semantic of a grammar here, if the element syntax defines a well-formed program of a language, the semantic defines the meaning of syntactically correct program in that language. And for example, the semantic of C helps us to determine the declaration into the vector 10, and that cause the space of the 10 integer element to be reserved for a variable named vector. The element of the array may be referred to as the index, like I, which is in between 0 to 9 as well. The first element of that vector is a vector of 0, like as another example, the semantics of C states as the instruction is, if A is greater than B, max equals to A, else max equals to B. This means that the expression if A is greater than B must be evaluated, and depending on its value, one of the two given statement assignment statement is executed, and the important semantic properties are as to be follows. The first semantic property we have is your scope. In the terms of scope here, that what part of the program has access to the variable, that is the whether the variable is local or global. For the second one, we have your type. In the type, what kinds of value may be stored in the variables and what operations may be performed on the variable. Usually there are the number of fundamental type defined by the languages, and there are some facilities for the user to define new types. Languages differ both in the terms of the fundamental types and the facility for a type definition. The fundamental type of a traditional language are dictated by the types that are supported by the hardware. Typically, as in C++, the fundamental types of the integer, real and character, that Pascal also has Boolean types, and there is large body of work on the data type that deals with both the theoretical underpinnings as well as the practical implications as well. The third we have is that is your lifetime. Lifetime, when is the variable created and when it is discarded. As we said, a variable represents some regions of memory which is capable of holding a value. The question is, when is memory area reserved or allocated for the variable, and memory may be reserved before the program starts, or when the unit is in the which the declaration occur is entered, or there could be, and there could be that statement that explicitly requests the allocations of storage for a variable. Indeed, C++ has all of these kinds of variables, like static variables live throughout the execution of the program, and automatic variables are allocated when the unit is in which they are declared in the entered. They are delocated when the units terminate, and some of the variables, they may be created and destroyed explicitly by the programmer using the operators new and delete. Actually, not all syntactically correct programs have a meaning. Thus, the semantics also separates a meaningful program from a merely syntactically correct ones. The semantics of the language might require such expression to deliver a truth value, that is true or false, and not say an integer value. In many cases, such rules the further constraints syntactically correct program that can be verified before a program's execution, and they are called static semantics as opposed to the dynamic semantics, and which describe the effects of executing the different constructs of the programming language. In such cases, the programs that can be executed only if they are correct with respect to the both to syntax and static semantics as well. Now we'll go ahead with the discussion, that is write a short note on a structure of a module of a grammar. Structure of a module of a grammar. In this, the programmers that implement software systems and application that consist of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of lines of code. These lines together implement a particular system design that consists of many interrelated components or modules, and a programming language that can provide the mechanism to help the programmers in managing this complexity. To some degree, the structures of the design may be reflected in the structures of the program, and this is a straightforward whenever the design method and the programming language paradigm matches as well. As an example, a program in the C++ that consists of the number of files. By convention, a programmer may implement each design module in one file, and even more, some files may contain the module that are more generally available, referred to as libraries. For example, the program include a file called that is your iostream.h, and which provides the declaration to the use of the standard input-output library provided by the C++. The language does not have any particular facilities for supporting the input-output, and the global variable must be declared initially, and the rest of the variable must be declared before using them. Main should that the main should first execute statement. Basically, the module describes the scope and the lifetime of the variable. Each module has only one entry and one exit point as well. In the same terms of it, if I'm talking about, explain the concepts of virtual computer with a suitable example and virtual computer. So let's go ahead to discuss about concept of virtual computer. Here it has been asked for 5 marks as well. A computer is an integrated set of algorithm and a data structure that is capable of storing and executing a program. We consider the way in which a given computer might be constructed. The first is that through a hardware realization representing the data structures and algorithm directly with physical devices. The second is that through a firmware realization here, in the through firmware realization that representing the data structures and algorithm by microprogramming in a suitable hardware computer as well. The third we have here is that through a virtual machine representing the data structures and the algorithm by the programs and that data structures in some other programming languages as well. The fourth is that the through the some combinations of these technique that is representing the various parts of the computer directly into the hardware and in microprograms or by software simulations as appropriate. Talking about the virtual computer and the language implementation, that each time of the language is implemented on a different computer, the implementers tends to see that the slightly or a very different virtual computer in the language definition. Thus, the two different implementations of the same language may utilizes a different set of data structures and the operations in the implementation, particularly for the data structures and the operation that are hidden in the program syntax. Each implement has a wide scope of determining the virtual computer structures that are the basic of the particular implementation. And when a programming language is being implemented on a particular computer, the implementer first determines the virtual computer that even though that represents and that is represents an interpretations of the semantics of the language, and then construct a virtual computer out of the hardware and the software elements that is provided by underlying computers. The implementers must also determine the precisely what is done during translation of a program and what during execution. The three factors that led the difference among the implementation of the same languages. The first difference is that difference in each implementer conceptions of the virtual computer that is implicit in the language definition. The second is that differences in the facilities provided by the host computer on what or which the language is to be implemented. The third is that differences in the choices made by each implementers as to how to simulate a virtual computer element using the facilities provided by the underlying computer and how to construct the translator so that so as to support these choices of virtual computers representation as well. Talking about the hierarchy, and that what we have is your that is in the comes under the hierarchy of a virtual machine. In the terms of hierarchy of virtual machine, the virtual machine that the programmer uses to create an application is in fact formed from a hierarchy of a virtual computer. At the bottom, there must of course lie an actual hardware computer, and however, the ordinary programmer seldom has an direct dealing with the computer. Instead, that the hardware computer is successively transformed by the layer of the software or microprograms into a virtual machine that may be radially different, and the second level of the virtual computer, or the third if the microprogram forms the second level. So it's usually defined by the complex collections of routine that is known as the operating system, where the input data and the input result has been found. where there are the virtual computer development of the programs that is implemented by the execution model that is developed in the C program, and to use the C virtual computer as well, and that the C virtual computer as well that is implemented by runtime library routine, and that is loaded with the compiled program. And operating system computer, which is implemented by the machine language program executing on the firmware virtual computer, and the firmware virtual computer which is implemented by the machine language instructions by the that is your the that is microcode executed by the, and that is your the neutral and actual computer, and actual data hardware computer that is implemented by the physical devices as well. Now we'll talk about with the detail, and that is what do you mean by the parse tree, and explain with an example. So parse tree that represent the pictorial representations of the derivations, and that what we have to discuss here. So here that is your parse tree. In the parse tree is a pictorial representation of derivation. Therefore, it is also known as the derivation tree, and the derivation tree is independent of the other in which the productions are used. And a parse tree is an ordered tree in which the nodes are labeled with the left side of the production, and in which the children of the node represents its corresponding right side. Some time that that's sometime the parse tree that has been sometimes the parse tree is also known as the syntax tree, generation tree, or a production tree as well. In the same case, the let the that G is VTPS, that be the constant of the free grammar, and ordered let that the CFG in the order of the tree, that if and only if it has the following properties, that the root of the parse tree that is labeled S, and whereas is the start symbol, and where that has been represented in the form of let G equals to V comma T comma P comma S, and that should be in the form of labeled as, the root should be labeled as that, whereas is the start symbol. And every vertex of the parse tree has been labeled, which is either variable and non-terminal, that is represented by the upper class letter, or the terminal that is represented by the lower class letter case letter, and a null symbol that is represented by either by this. These were the symbol that has been represented for the null. And the label of the internal vertices, which also be a variable, and a vertex will be intermediate node if the label is n, which is n belongs to b. That is in the same case, vertex with the leaf node, if it is labeled as that, if the vertices have a k childrens with the label of a1 a2 8 that is your a3 till the ak, and where a tends to a1 a2 a3 till ak, will be the production in the context of the free grammar of G that we had represented. Now we'll discuss about, explain the ambiguity in the context free grammar, and what do you mean by the ambiguous grammar, explain. That has also been asked for 5 marks. Ambiguity in context free grammar, or ambiguous grammar. So here in the same case, if I'm talking about here in the details, so the same references that a context free grammar G is an ambiguous if there is an at least one string that is L of T having 2 or more distinct derivations that we have, and that is, for example, let us consider the CFG having a production, and that we have here, and that is in the terms of S stands to S plus S, and A, and that the string is A plus A plus A, and has a 2 left 2 derivations. So string is A plus A plus A, where is that the derivation from the left side is to be stands to S plus S, that tends S plus S plus S, that tends A plus S plus S, and which is tends to A plus A plus S, that is A plus A plus A, where S tends to S bar plus S, and this is A plus S bar, A plus S plus S, and which tends to a plus s bar, and that tends to a plus a plus a plus. This is, and the derivation tree will be here, that has been represented, and this is s plus s, and this is s plus s, and that is your a. It is also a, and that is also a. The another tree from this is from this side, and so for the other side we have s plus s, which is represented s plus s, and that is represented a variable, and this is representing as well a here. This is the representative that the above grammar is ambiguous because it has a two leftmost derivation tree, and similarly we can show the two rightmost derivation tree as well. So let's go ahead with the another one, that is the describe the term automata and also explain the finite automata here, and that what we have to discuss in the detail as well. So here we'll discuss the describe the term automata, as I told you. In automata, explain also finite automata. In the finite automata, an automata is an abstract model of digital computer with a discrete input and output. In every automata that includes the mechanism for reading inputs, it is assumed that the input in a string over a given alphabet within an input file which the automata that can read, and the input file is divided into smaller parts known as cell, and each of which can hold one symbol at a time, and the input mechanism that can read the input file from left to right and one symbol at a time. The input mechanism also detects the end of the input string. The automata also produces output. It may be stored in temporary storage devices that is consisting of finite number of cells, each of which is capable of holding a single symbol from an alphabet. And a finite automata consists of a set of finite states and of transition from state to state that occurs on an input symbol that is chosen from an alphabet, and for each input that there is exactly one transition out of each state, and the q naught is the initial state from which the automata starts, and some states are designated as a final or accepting state. A final automata a finite automata is described by a 5 tuples, which is represented here. Yes, and that is your representation q naught and f here. In these tuples that has been represented here, and in the same case if I'm talking about with the tuples that is q naught, and then of course we have f, and where q is a non-empty finite set of states that is present in this, and that is this is non-empty finite set of input symbols as well, and where in the same case which can be passed to finite data machine and represented by a comma b comma c till infinite, and where the q naught is here at the starting state, and one of it's the state of q as well, and where f is a function that f is non-empty set of final state of accepting state set of final states is subset of q as well. And with this, and that is the function known as the transition function. It tells for each state and for each letter of input alphabet and which state to go next here, that is q abstract that tends to q here, and that is the automata that have controlled unit which can be any of in any of a finite number of internal states, and which can state in some well defined manner. An automata is used to operate in a discrete time frame, and at any instant that the control unit is in some internal state, and the internal state of a control unit at the next time step is determined by a transition function. The transition function gives the next state in the terms of the current state, and the systematic representation of the good automata is represented by This is sky. Then we have and this is completed by the this is input tape, and we are within this is reading head, and this is finite control. In this in this input tape, this is phi represents the starting symbol, and that this is the end of the input tape here, and thus we can say a finite automata consists of finite number of input symbol which are read from input tape, and corresponding to there is an finite number of states as well. Now we'll talk about what do you understand by the non-deterministic finite automata. Non deterministic finite automata, which is NFA and DFA. So non-deterministic finite automata here and that is how it is represented as well, that what we have to know about it. And a finite automata is said to be a non-deterministic if we have more than one possible transition on the same input symbols from some state here with the same transitions on the same input symbol from some state. And a non-deterministic finite automata is also a set of 5 tuples and represented as here in the form of, as I told you about, that is which is has been represented here, and that is represented as m equals to q, q naught and f. So here that where this is the q, which is a set of non-empty finite states, and this is a set of non-empty finite input symbols. This is a q that is q naught is initial state of NFA and a member of q, where f is your that is a non-empty finite set of final states and a member of q. And with this that is it is a transition function that takes a state from q and an input a symbol from segment that that the sum, and that returns the subset of the q, and that this is represented in the form here, which is abstract and that is tends to 2 to power q here. The graphical representation of this is as to be follows: q naught, q1, q2, and this is qn. So here what do you understand by the regular expression, that what we have to discuss here? In the regular expression here, that one of the standardization that in a computer science is regular expression, a language for specifying a text search string, and that the regular expression language that is used for searching text in the Unix, that is your Perl, Emacs and grep, and that in Microsoft Word version 6 and beyond and Word Perfect are the almost identical, and that is the regular expression feature that exists in the various web services engine. And beside this practical use, that the regular expression is an important theoretical and throughout that is the computer science and the linguistics as well. where a regular expression is firstly developed by the Klein and in 1956, and it is a formula of a special language that is used for specifying simple classes of strings, and a string is a sequence of symbolic for a purpose of most text-based search technique, and a string is any sequence of the alphanumeric character, letters, numbers, space, tabs, and punctuations. For these purposes of the space is just character like any other, and we represent it with the symbol that is formally a regular expression in an algebra notation for characterizing a set of strings, and thus they can use this to specify such a string as well as to define a language in a formal way as well. In the same case, if I'm talking about, let's go ahead with another one. Write a short introduction to Backus-Naur form, that is BNF. This is the full form of BNF. In this Backus-Naur form, that is your BNF here. In this, the Backus-Naur form was introduced in 1959 first time, and it was invented by the John Backus to describe the Algol 58. BNF is equivalent to the context-free grammar, that is CFG, and that BNF is a meta language and used to describe the another language. In BNF, the abstractions are used to represent the classes of syntactic structure. They act like syntactic variables and also called non-terminal symbols, and the BNF includes the non-terminate, that is non-terminals, BNF abstraction, terminals, lexemes and tokens, grammar, or collections of rules as well. So it consists of three. Non-terminals, BNF abstraction. The second is terminals, that is lexemes and tokens. Third, grammar, a collection of rules. With this example of BNF rule, we have that is left, that is identifier, and identifier, that is identifier as well. If STMT, that is the logic expression, then STMT. So these were the examples of BNF rule. And write a short note on phases of compiler. Short note on phases of compiler. In this we'll discuss in a detail every phases here, and with the same concept. And the first we have to discuss about it, that the compiler are the translator, and which translates a program written in a high level language like C++, Fortran, and COBOL, Pascal, etc. into an equivalent machine code. And a compiler is divided into the sub parts known as phases. Generally, a compiler contains 6 phases, which are as to be follows, and that has been represented here. That is, the first we have the source program. Then we have this is the phases of compiler. In phases of compiler, that each and everything is connected to that all are connected here, and this okay. So here this is your the source program, and it goes to the lexical analyzer. It will go to the syntax analyzer. It will go to the semantic analyzer. Then it will go to the intermediate code generator, code optimizer, code generator. Then it will go to the target program. This is symbol table manager. This is error handler. In this, if I'm talking about here, so we'll go ahead with the each and every phases. With the phase 1 is your lexical analyzer. The lexical analyzer phase takes source program as an input and separate characters of the source's language into groups and that logically together. These groups are known as tokens, and these tokens may be the keywords such as do, if, while, etc. Identifiers such as x, num, count, etc. The operator symbols such as greater than, greater equals than, plus, etc. are the punctuation symbol such as parentheses or that is commas. The output of the lexical analyzer's phase passes to next phase known as syntax analyzer or the parser here. Let's go ahead with another one, that is your phase 2, which is your syntax analyzer. In this, that the syntax analyzer phase is also known as a passing phase. It takes the token as input and lexical analyzer phase. The syntax analyzer group token together into a syntactic structure, and the output of this phase is a parse tree. The third we have is the semantic analysis, where then in the semantic analysis phase that checks the source program for the semantic error and gathers the type information for the subsequent code generation phase. It uses the hierarchical structures determined by the syntactic analysis phase to determine the operators and the operands of expressions and statement. In the phase, the compiler checks that each operator has an operand that are permitted by a source language specification as well. The fourth phase is your intermediate code generation, that the next phase of the compiler is intermediate code generation. It takes a parse tree as an input from a semantic phase and generates the intermediate code. Generally, a 3-address code is generated, and the primary differences between the intermediate code and an assembly code is that the intermediate code need not to specify the register and to use to each for each operations as well. The phase 5 we have your code optimization. It is an optimal phase designed to improve the intermediate code so that the ultimate object program run faster and or takes less space. In the code optimization phase, we generally try to remove the unnecessary variable here. In the phase 6, that is your code generator here. In this, it is a final phase for compiler. It generates the assembly code as target language. In this phase, the address in the binary code is translated from the logical address. We are talking about the symbols and table management and bookkeeping as well. In this here, that is, a symbol is a data structure containing a record for each identifier, which with fields for the attributes of the identifier. The data structures allow us to find out the record for each identifier quickly and to store to retrieve data from that record quickly here. Error handler, that is, the error handler is involved when a defect in the source program is detected. Now going ahead to have discussion related to that, that is, you discuss the transition diagram in finite automata. So let's go ahead here only. Just we'll go ahead to discuss about it, and that even though that will help full as well. In the same case, if we are going to in the detail as well, and that takes even though that plays an important role as well. Now we'll go ahead to discuss about that is the transition diagram. In the transition diagram, a transition diagram graph that is were invented by the John Myhill in 1957. A successful path through a transition graph is a series of edges that is forming a path beginning at some start state and ending at a final state. If we concatenated the string of letters in the order that label each edges in the path, and we can produce a world that is accepted by this machine. Thus we can describe the transition graph as collections of following. The first is the finite set of the state, one of them designated as the start state and some of which are depicted as final state. The start state is represented by a circle and having an arrow, with the final state is represented by the two concentric circles, and the diagram representation has to be as follows. This is known as initial state. This is known as final state. And here that sigma of the possible input letters which input string is formed, and a finite set of transition labeled edges that shows how to do from one state to another state, and that is based on the reading specified substrings of input letters, and possibly even for the null string as well. So for example, here this is Q0. For this is 1, this is 0 for Q1, this is 1, this is 0 for Q2, this is the final state as I told you about, and this is for this, that is 1, and here from this to this, that is also 0. So this is a sort of an example referencing the diagram, and in the above this transition diagram, that the initial here, that is your Q0, and the final state is Q2, and the intermediate state is your Q1, where initially if the system is in the state of the Q0, then when reading heads reads input the input 1, that the system remains in the same state Q0, and if the input is 0, is then goes to the state Q0, then the system changes state from Q0 to Q1. At the state of the Q1, when the transition system gets input 1, it will be in the same state Q1, and when input 0, then it is given to the state of Q2, and the transition system changes its state from Q1 to Q2, and which is the final state. And again, if we get an input as an state Q2 1, and that the system remains at the same state and getting input 0, and that go to the state 0, that the system changes the position from Q2 to Q1, because this is the final state, so it will not go further here. Thus we conclude that if we are giving input string like here, that is your in the form 0 0 1 0 0 1 0 0 1 0 1 0 0 0, here will go with a further one, and that will be accepted by the transition graph that is ended at a final state. In other words, we can say it that the transition graph that accepts all strings having even numbers of zeros. And if we are defining the transition graph mathematically, then it will be the combinations of the 5 tuples, and that is the TG, that is equals to Q, this Q0 and F, and where these were the same as discussed in the finite automata here. Now we'll discuss what you understand by the deterministic finite automata and how it is represented. Deterministic finite automata. In deterministic finite automata here, a finite automata FA is said to be a deterministic. It corresponding to an input symbol, and there is a single resultant state, that is there is the only one transition. And a deterministic finite automata is a set of 5 tuples and represented as in the form of m equals to q, and then this Q0 and F as well. So where this Q is representing a non-empty finite set of state presents in the finite control, which is Q1, Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3 until Qn and n, and that is the representation of sigma, a non-empty finite set of input symbols here, and where it will be the sign that it is a transition function that takes two arguments and a state and an input symbol. It returns to a single state representing Q abstract multiply sigma, and that tends to Q, and where small q is the state, and and that is the B, the input symbol that passed to the transition function as well, where Q dash is the output function, which may be as same as a new state, and where Q naught is the starting state and one of the state is in Q, and F is it is non-empty set of the final state and accepting the state from the set of belonging to Q as well. The graphical representation of the transition function is to be as follows in the form that is Q comma A that tends to Q dash. So here this is tends to Q dash, and there Q dash may be as same as Q. So let's go ahead with the another one, that is what do you want mean by the push down automata here. In the name of push down automata here, I will discuss about push down automata. In the push-down automata, if I'm talking about, that is the push-down automata that differ from finite state machine in a two ways, and that they can be used to the top of the stack to decide which transition to take, and they can manipulate the stack as a part of performing a transition. That push-down automata choose a transition by an indexing of a table by input signals, and that the current state and the symbol at the top of the stack as well, and this means that these three parameters completely determine the transition path that is chosen, and finite state machine just look at the input signal and the current state. They have no attack to work with, and push down automata add a stack as a parameter for choice, and push down automata that can also manipulate the stack as a part of performing a transition. Finite state machine that chooses a new state that results, in the same case that can results of the following transition, and the manipulation that can be push a particular symbol to top of the stack or the to pop of the top of the stack. The automata that can alternatively ignore the stack and leave it as it is, and the choice of the manipulation is to determine by the transition table. Given an input signal, that current state, and a stack symbol, that the automata that can follow a transition to the another state, and that is optionally manipulate a push or a pop stack. In general, push down automata that maybe have a several computation on a given input string, some of which may have been halting as in accepting configuration while other are not, and thus we have a model which is technically known as non-deterministic push down automata. Non-deterministic means that there may be a more than just one transition available in a to follow, and given an input, just one transition available to follow. Given an input signal state and a stack symbol is if it in every situation only one transition is available in the continuation of the computation, then the result in the deterministic push down automata, that is DBDA, strictly weaker devices. And if we allow finite automation access to stacks instead of just one, we obtain a more powerful devices equivalent in power of Turing machine, and a linear bounded automata is a device which is more powerful than a push down automata, but less so than the Turing machine here. And push-down automata are equivalent to the context-free grammar. For every context-free grammar, there exists a push-down automata such that the language that is generated by a grammar is identical with the language generated by the automata, which is easy to prove, and the reverse of is true as well. Though the harder to prove, for every push-down automata, there exists a context-free grammar such that the language generated by the automata is identical with the language generated by the grammar as well. Let's go ahead to discuss about context-free grammar. In the context of free grammar here, that is, the context free grammar was written by the Chomsky, and the context free grammar is capable of describing most of the syntax of programming language, and a CFG describes languages via the recursive rules called production, where a CFG that can described as it is a combination of four tuples and represented by G, V, T, P, and S as well, where V is the has been enabled, that is here, that V set of variables on a non-terminal represented by A, B till B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z till Z here. And here the T is the set of the terminal that is represented by A, B, C till X, Y, Z, plus, minus, abstract, and comma, etc. And where S is the starting symbol, and a P is a set of production. The production used in CFG must be in the form of A that tends to alpha, and where A is a variable and alpha is a string of a symbol, V union a T abstract as well. Where that the symbol of the context free grammar we have here G equals to VT PS, and where V equals to E and T equals to plus abstract and ID as well, where that here as S equals to E, and the production P is given as, which is E tends to E plus E, E tends to E abstract E, and E tends to E, and E tends to ID. Where in that same given example of the CFG for the arithmetic expressions here, that is an example grammar that generates a string representing arithmetic expression with the four operators, that is plus, minus, abstract, and divide as well, with a comma as well, and that is the numbers as an operand here. The expression is the number, the expression, that expression has been represented, expression plus expression has been represented, expression minus expression will be offended, and that has been implemented with multiply and the divide individually. The only non-terminal symbols in the grammar is the expression, which is also the starting symbol, and that the terminal symbol, that is your plus, minus, multiply, divide, brackets are there, the numbers are there. We will interpret the numbers to be represented any valid number, and the first rule or the production instructions state that the expression that can be rewritten that has or replaced by a number. In other words, a number is a valid expression as well. The second rule says that an expression enclosed in the parenthesis is also an expression, and note that this rule defines an expression in the terms of expression and examples of the use of recursion in the definition on the context-free grammar. The remaining rules say that the sum, differences, products, or the division of the two expression is also an expression as well. That the another case we can say that write a CFG for starting string having unequal numbers of A's and B's. CFG for string having equal numbers of A's and B's. In this, the palindrome that is generated by the binary, so it will be here 0 0 0 1 0 1 1 1 0 1 1 1 1 0 0 1 1 1, and so at so let the CFG be, we have is your, that is G equals to V comma T comma P comma S, and then we have your V equals to S, then T equals to 0 comma 1, and S equals to, that is of S here. The production rule that has been divided here, that is your 0 as 0 1 S1, and here that is your S is 0 1 and then null here. In the same case, we will be ending up with this unit. So first of all, it's a huge request from my side to all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button, and please like, share and subscribe our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. And it's a huge request from my side, and thanks to all those subscribers, those who had subscribed to our channel, and thanks for your support, and this is very valuable to us. And first of all, if I'm talking about the unit 1 which we had completed in this class, in the two classes we had completed unit 1. In this in the terms of unit 1, we had started with introduction, and in the introduction part we had completed many more topics, that is your introduction, the role of the programming languages, why study programming languages towards the higher level language, programming paradigm, programming environment, language description, syntactic structure, language translation issues, programming language syntax, stages in translation, formation, translation method as well. That what we had discussed with respect to the model as well. Now we'll go have to discuss about it, that is your unit 2, that is your language properties. In the language properties we have to cover up in the next coming class, and that is your language properties, modeling language properties, elementary data types, encapsulation, inheritance, sequence control, subproblem control as well. Unit 3rd here, that is your programming paradigm, imperative programming, and that is the statements, types, procedure, activities as that is activations as well. Object oriented programming, grouping of data and operational function, or object oriented programming, functional programming, elements programming in a typed language, programming with a list as well. In the unit 4 here, that is the others programming paradigm, which is other programming paradigm, logical programming, concurrent programming, network programming, language description, and as well as the semantic methods as well. In the unit 5th, which we have to discuss here, that's the lambda calculus. In lambda calculus, introduction to lambda calculus, simple typing, types and subtyping as well. So first of all, it's a huge request from my side to all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button, and please like, share and subscribe our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. And this is the second class of your principle of programming language. Thank you, hope you enjoy this video. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and give a suggestion on a comment box. Thank you.